From last week. They want to see young players step up. They want to see veteran players build on what they've done, particularly the guys who have not been here.
Mike Danger.
The NFL is just, it's gangster.
Gene Battaglia.
This is a blow for the Buffalo Bills not having one of their top playmakers.
Chase Claypool's time with the Bills has effectively come to an end.
The journey just got a little harder. Lano is a special dude. He'll be back, and he'll fight through it.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
A very good weekend to you, and we welcome you on in to the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, Rochester's only local sports talk show. Glad you're with us. Thanks for listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can get our stream on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Fan Rochester, and you can hear us on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. I'm Danger, and that's Battaglia.
Should I be bothered by this? I don't know if I should bring this up now or later. This was the story from yesterday.
Bring it up.
I already brought it up. Too late. So this is a story, Bill Belichick and the girl, the 24-year-old, right? And there's still a thing. Our guy Mo spotted them out.
Of course. We wish
at
them nothing but the
Saratoga.
best. We want
Yeah.
them to stay together for a long time.
Yeah, I feel like we're page 6 here, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
We're TMZ. Like, they were at Saratoga.
That's Mo.
Great.
Mo on the scene.
Mo on the scene, and, you're Belichick. You want to go, let's go watch the horses. And, in Massachusetts, they don't have a track, so that fits. That makes sense.
They consider Saratoga part of New England, which I think bothers me a little bit. Like, you can't just claim ownership of that. Chowders. You can't.
No, I know it's like within a stone's throw of the Vermont border, but get out of here with that.
That's
Stop. Right. No, you're not New England. But I digress. When I was looking to verify, not that I don't believe Mo, but I'm like, okay, has anybody else had this story? No. I'm reading up here on the latest on the gossip pages with Belichick and the 72-year-old, 24-year-old romance, and I come across something where all these paparazzi people are starting to dig on the 24-year-old, her background.
Mm-hmm.
And they come across the mom. And I'm like, well, this is kind of crossing a line. Do we really have to kind of investigate with the mom, what she does for a living? And then I'm like, oh, maybe this is germane to the story here. The mom is the manager of a shop in Provincetown, which is in Cape Cod.
Like a sandwich shop, like a sub shop?
Nope.
Surfboard shop?
For those who don't know, Provincetown is basically the San Francisco of the East Coast. It is very progressive, LGBTQ, everywhere you go, pride flags, everything. And, and you go there, and it's a fun time. There's great food. There's everything else. There's tours to track. Like Anthony Bourdain's original restaurant is still active, the Lobster Pot.
Okay.
Well, she's managing this shop in Provincetown that's called Toys of Eros.
Oh. Say, what exactly do they sell at Toys of Eros? I'm guessing Legos
whatever.
are not on the shelf. I'm guessing you're not buying your favorite toy figurines.
Yeah. No, it's
Toys of Eros.
Eros, like EROS, not arrows like I'm going to go shoot a deer. It's like that's.
So it's not a hunting shop.
No.
It's not a children's toy shop. Toys of Eros.
You could just kind of imagine, like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting, and the mom's 60. And
who am I to judge?
Yeah,
Good for her.
and
She's working at 60. She's probably making a good buck managing the shop.
Yeah, selling toys
and stuff. From now on, when we do a Belichick impersonation, I'm going to request that you do it as if he has a ball gag in his mouth. Now you can't get that image out of your head.
Dude, I don't want to say thank you. I don't need that. So why am I bringing this up today?
Why?
I get home last night, and you nicknamed my wife, Julie, the executive producer, because not only does she listen to the show, but she has input on the show.
She gives you a critique every night.
A critique. Danger goes home, nothing.
Yeah,
Do
right.
you get a scorecard? No.
They know better. First of all, they're not going to listen because we talk about sports, and they really don't care about sports the way I care about sports. So it's not something that they understand. Like, we could talk about and we will talk about, tomorrow's preseason game and how long the starters are going to play and the Matt Milano injury and the ripple effect of all. We can talk about all of that through the course of this afternoon, and my girls at home, their eyes glaze over. They're like, "Wait, we don't know. We don't know what you're talking about. You might as well be talking in Italian."
Yeah.
Because they don't get it.
And your wife works in the business, so you don't need to be talking shop when you get home. I get that.
Right.
Me, it's much different. I get a scorecard for my wife. I always get, I might get my hand slapped for my dad on this one, but
he listens too.
He listens too.
So she's the executive producer. He's the senior executive producer.
Like if we get guaranteed next dinner, like did Danger really need to say that about Belichick? That's the kind of
I'm crass. I know.
Yeah, that would be kind of.
Mr. Battaglia knows that we've worked on this show long enough, Gino. I think Mr. Battaglia knows I like to step up to the line and maybe just dip a toe in over the line from time to time.
Well, listen, this is what people come to the sports bar, okay? Like, we're not going to be yes, this is real talk here, right? So I go home last night, and the follow-up on Toys of Arrows, she hits me with this line. I know that store.
Oh, whoa.
I'm like, what?
The executive producer knows?
Oh.
Plot twist. Is there a secret room in Battaglia Manor that we don't know about, Gino?
No, there's no red room. There's nothing like that. All right. So, the red room of pain or whatever that's called. No, there's not. No. The reason she knows, and I forgot about this, like when we went out to Cape Cod, Kyle and I went to a baseball game, Cape Cod League. Never did that. It was the first year we had 2 cars. Girls went to Provincetown for the day. So they just happened to know the store. They went by it. The store, it is what you can imagine. What the executive producer tells me is that there's a mannequin outside, and the mannequin's dressed in leather and chains.
Right. Kind of like what you would expect, I would think, out of Toys of Arrows.
Well, I mean, is just like taking this in a direction. Like now more imagery I don't want to know. Is like, is Bill Belichick going to visit, you can't say his mother-in-law, but the mother of the girl he's dating, young woman, 24. I mean, are they taking a drive up to Provincetown? Are they
just
going
to
into
stop
the store?
in, say hi to mom, future mother-in-law who, I mean, maybe this is a long play. Maybe Belichick is working the daughter to get to the mom. You never know. It could be.
Where did you get that sound?
What's that? What is that? Did you hear something? I didn't hear anything. Is that Toys of Arrows? Bill Belichick walking in the door, or is that the Red Room at Battaglia Manor? The executive producer knows of the store.
Knows of the store.
That's amazing. She didn't go in, but she knows of the store.
She claims she didn't go in. Well, our daughter was, although our daughter's 21 now, it's not like she doesn't know about this stuff. So
sure. No, she probably didn't go. Though, if I were to see that store, I'd just walk by it and be like, okay, well, that's nice, and just got to carry on with my day. I don't know that Bill Belichick would, though. Somebody who is as familiar and who can navigate around Nantucket the way Belichick can navigate around Nantucket, maybe he's got like a loyalty member rewards card there through mom.
Is that how they met originally? Like the story. Can I be skeptical because, like, we're fed stories and we just take them verbatim? And what was the story? They met on a plane. They had a good conversation. They kept in contact. Really?
I love that story.
Woman,
that story lets me know that true love still exists. That
okay,
it can happen.
Or that's just a made-up story. They met in some S&M chat room. All right, and
wow.
that's
wow. Maybe she was helping mom out and do some stalking.
Like Belichick is kind of going. Oh, all right.
Yeah. What's her name again? Jennifer.
Jordan Hudson.
Jordan.
Not to be confused with the American Idol contestant.
So mom is, calling to Jordan, hey, we got to restock the 8-foot dong aisle. Can you get? And that's where she runs into Bill Belichick, and it's just love at first sight. Pure attraction immediately. And then Belichick does the walk of shame. We all saw the picture of him walking out of her little house, condo, whatever, beach villa, whatever they have there. Yeah. Well, if I'm taking away anything from this, Gino, it's not that the executive producer might have a secret room in your house that you're not aware of. It's not that she knows about the store. It's not that Belichick's potential future mother-in-law works at the store. It's that, man, I'm feeling pretty good right now about my box wine bet. I'm feeling like there's a lot to be happy about if you're Bill Belichick. Life is pretty good right now. You're enjoying your life with your 24-year-old girlfriend whose mom works at a store called Toys of Eros, and you probably are getting your freak on. You're probably living a pretty good life right now, a life that you've deprived yourself of because of football for, the greater part of 50 years. So good for him. Why would you come back to a sideline when you can come back to Toys of Eros?
Why would you come back to a sideline when you can wear a dog collar and walk around that way? Yes.
Yeah. We can see. I imagine there's parades every night in Provincetown, the way you're describing it. So will we someday see Bill Belichick marching in a parade in Provincetown, representing Toys of Eros? Part of the family deal. You want to be part of the family, Bill. You have to support us too.
Listen, he's out of football. There's endorsement opportunities, I would think.
I just see Bill. Can you imagine Bill Belichick looking like the Gimp from Pulp Fiction, wearing the leather mask and just walking around, buttless chaps, cheese in the wind, marching through Provincetown. This you had to bring it up. I'm sorry.
I brought it up.
Mr. Battaglia, I'm sorry. You know in my heart I'm a good person. I don't like working blue. Every now and then I step up to the line. Maybe every now and then I put a toe over the line. But this is too good. I'm sorry. I just want
this is sports talk you don't get anywhere else.
This is now that we've connected these dots through our exclusive insider, Mo. And your muckraking, your investigative journalism.
My investigating, and I am I right to question, like, whoever the publicist, they met on a plane. They had a good conversation. Yeah, really?
It'll make for a great rom-com someday.
Yeah.
They'll dust off Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan or something to the effect.
Is this why the Patriots went into the tank last year? He was just too busy living this alternate lifestyle.
Possibly. What would they call the Belichick rom-com? What would it be called? I'll throw that out to you guys at 866-4326 or at the Fan Rochester on X. If there was a rom-com made around everything we just described, Belichick, his 24-year-old girlfriend, and her mom who works as the manager of a toy store, what would the name of the rom-com be? And then we need Max then to work a trailer for us. Max, get Max to do some video editing, get some footage. We'll work a trailer. He was a grizzled veteran, NFL hood, everything going for him, success, money, and then on a flight, romance happened, and it got deeper. When he found out about Toys of Eros. What was it called? Shades of Grey? Was that the
50 Shades
50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah.
Something along those lines, I think, is what I'm envisioning.
Right.
I've
always heard about this lifestyle.
No, with the ball gag, Gene. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. No, put that back in, Coach. Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. We've got a great show lined up for you. I mean, hard to top that start, Gino.
It's a Friday. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you for bringing that to the table. And thank you to the executive producer for straightening us out and letting us know that this is a real place. She's familiar with it. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to continue to suggest that perhaps the executive producer actually did go into the store and there's something going on nefarious in your basement or a secret room, a passageway.
Nothing
that you're aware of.
I'm not aware of anything. Trust me.
Okay. Just don't go out to Gene's shed. We don't know what exists there. Dog collars and chains, and all kinds of stuff. We're going to talk later this hour Oh, man, I hope she's not listening. Brooke Pryor, ESPN.
Let's downshift here.
Yeah.
And talk about the Steelers.
Brooke, I
and
swear,
Russell
we're going to
Wilson.
talk about
Yep,
sports. We're going to talk
yep.
about football. Yep.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
that's what we do here in the
Yep.
sports bar. Brooke Pryor covers the Steelers for ESPN's NFL Nation. Love having her on with us. She's the best, and we'll give some insight on the Steelers. And we learned today that, Russell Wilson will get some playing time. We know that the Bills are going to play. Right now, the plan is for them to play about a quarter and a half. That's weather dependent. I think.
Yeah. Do we ask Brooke about the weather? Like she's going to have her weather app on, I think, probably. Brooke Pryor, who covers the Steelers we've had her on a bunch of times. She's really cool. Will be joining us here shortly. We'll also talk some fantasy because we like this heading into a weekend. From the NFL Network, Michael F. Florio joining us. F.
I imagine that because we haven't gotten any final updates on the Brandon Ayuk saga, that if you have a draft in the next week or few days, that you're probably drafting him as if he's going to remain a 49er. That would be my guess.
I want to ask him, too, like, all right, we shouldn't take anything seriously in the preseason, right? You can't or can we? Because a couple of plays from Caleb Williams make me go, the one, the 40-yarder, that's the obvious one. And I was going to text you this. You might have saw it on your feed. So Eric Turner from Cover One did a breakdown of Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams, it was 3rd and long. Do you remember this play? Pass to the near sideline, and it's complete, and he hits that. Well, a couple things from this play. Williams blows it. Williams gets sucked in by the guy in the flat. All he had to do was keep his position. There are 4 guys, and then Caleb Williams would have to check down. The second that Dorian Williams takes a step and take off to the guy in the flat, Williams pivots, bam.
And hits his guy.
First down. That's a veteran read.
That's reading, that's reading the defense.
Whoa, wait a second. That's different. So, to me, yes, the arm strength, but then also to read the defense perfectly on a 3rd and long in your first NFL start? Okay, maybe there is something with Caleb Williams. Or maybe not.
You could do worse, I think, in a Superflex league if he's your QB2 going into the season.
Yeah, look, so we'll get the thoughts of Michael F. Florio. That and more fantasy topics. By the way, if you have a fantasy question, you can always hit us up on X at The Fan Rochester.
So, as I mentioned, the Bills are planning to play Josh Allen, the team's healthy starters, for about a quarter and a half tomorrow night against the Steelers. And that is going to be weather dependent. Rain is in the forecast in Pittsburgh. And by the way, also playing a quarter or more for Josh Allen here now in multiple preseason games, that would be a departure from last year, right? Like last year, I think they went in thinking, all right, he's not going to play this game. He's going to play a little bit, but they looked bad. We're going to put him out there again week 3 of the preseason last year. So a little bit of a departure here. But I guess if you're dealing with what the Bills are dealing with, which is a lot of new faces and trying to build chemistry, how long does it take? How long do you think it would take, not just for the Bills' offense, but also now with these injuries, the Bills' defense, to fully get into a rhythm? Because I heard the guys earlier on One Bills talking about how it might take the defense with Dorian Williams about a month, that maybe through the month of September there's going to be some bumps in the road. And you just mentioned a play that Dorian Williams kind of missed on, right? Like the instincts that Matt Milano has, the instincts that any veteran has, knowing, okay, this is where it's going, this is where I need to be, not overcommitting the way Williams did on that play. Will that be something that rears its head early in the season for the Buffalo Bills? And is it going to take a little bit of time for both sides of the ball to kind of gel, given that it's a lot of new faces?
It's a good point. But if I'm just looking at Josh Allen, he still is your most valuable player. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. What are we doing here trotting him out in Pittsburgh? I'm wondering, though, if you just look at the fort, they say this now, hey, there's a chance of rain or the field is wet. There's a possibility, okay, Trubisky, you take the whole game here. I just hope for viewers' sake or listeners' sake, this isn't one of those games that we got to wait up until midnight on a Saturday.
To see it finish, to see its conclusion.
Because here's one thing the NFL doesn't do, Danger. They don't give refunds. Baseball, we're just used to, it's raining. Here's a rain check. Come back for another game. The NFL can't do that. So they will make you wait this out, even though it's a stupid preseason game.
Now, walk me through this, because I know the Hall of Fame game was basically cut short because of lightning.
Okay, that was after a certain time.
Yeah.
So if
It's third quarter.
right, so if you can get to a certain time, and I think every place might be different, that would be. I'm not versed in what that is.
All right. Well, Brooke might be able to shed some light on that for us, because it wouldn't shock me if there is severe weather that they just say, all right, well, we got the work in that we needed to get done. They might also say, well, let's let the severe weather pass because we need these reps, and these players need these reps because at minimum they're fighting for jobs in their future, and we don't want to deprive them of that because of a passing shower or thunderstorm. There was a bit of Bills news here in the last 24 hours, not related to the players or not related to this season, but it's almost like a non-surprising story when you hear that the Bills have submitted an official request to host the NFL draft in either 2028 or 2029. This is obviously because the draft has been a road show since back in 2015 when the Chicago hosted it 2 years in a row, and it's kind of moved from city to city and market to market every year, with Detroit obviously hosting it earlier this year. I think Green Bay is on deck. And with the new stadium being opened up in 2026 and everything looking to plan right now for the Buffalo Bills, why not host a draft in or around New Highmark Stadium? So that when I saw that little story cross my feed, I'm like, okay, well, that checks out, and that's kind of what we expected, that at some point they would want to bring in some kind of major event to the New Highmark Stadium.
Yeah, if you can get hundreds of thousands of visitors, you owe that. You owe that to the taxpayer, right? To make this some sort of big event. Gosh, where should it be? Should it be in the new stadium? Should it be downtown? I would think the Buffalo Bills would like to have it in the new stadium. Danger for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Brooke Pryor covers the Steelers for ESPN's NFL Nation. We'll get a preview of tomorrow night's Week 2 preseason action next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger.
Because in this league, obviously, it's 100% injury rate. Sometimes it's 200, sometimes it's 300, and guys just have to be ready to go.
Coverage begins at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio with the call here on The Fan. We'll talk about the Steelers coming up next. Brooke Pryor, ESPN NFL Nation reporter, joining us next in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings home tonight as the Syracuse Blue Jays once again the opponent. One game in the majors. Cubs are up, and the Jays 2-0 in the fourth. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Week 2 of the preseason for the Bills and the Steelers tomorrow night here on the Fan Rochester. Coverage starts at 5 o'clock. And to talk a little bit more about the matchup and the Pittsburgh Steelers, we welcome in Steelers reporter for ESPN NFL Nation. It's our pal Brooke Pryor. Brooke, it's great having you on with us. Thanks for making some time. And I want to talk a little bit about yesterday's joint practice first and foremost with you. What was your vibe from practice? Everybody come out unscathed, and any takeaways that you had from the Bills and the Steelers' time together on the practice field?
Yeah, they did come out unscathed, which I guess shouldn't be too surprising because I think both teams came into that with their head coaches being pretty firm to not fight. There were a couple little scuffles, the most significant one being after Justin Fields had a pass batted down, and I believe the Bills player flexed a little bit after the play, and the Steelers offense took exception to that. But, I mean, this was my first joint practice that I've covered because this is the Steelers' first joint practice in 8 years.
Wow.
I believe, yeah. So it was weird to watch. Like, I barely saw the Steelers' defense because I was watching the Steelers' offense the whole time. I think that Russell Wilson looked the best he has, at least throwing-wise. There was a team period. I believe he started out 4 for 4 in that passing. And Justin Fields wasn't as accurate yesterday. I saw some times where he looked like he had a bit of indecision in where he wanted to go with the ball. Saw him working through his progressions and not finding anything or not making the read in the right time, which that's something that he's been knocked for before. But he did have read option touchdown in 7 shots and then had, I think, like a 40-yard touchdown in the 2-minute drill. But I don't think the Bills' defense was playing as hard as they normally would in a game with that run. So, I mean, I think it went well for both sides, but it was interesting that the Steelers did let Justin Fields get quite a bit of playing time, or did let Russell Wilson get quite a bit of playing time, and they've been, slowly ramping him up since that calf injury.
Brooke, how many times in the last 3 weeks have you been asked about Brandon Ayuk?
The limit does not exist. It's a popular question, and there is still no answer. The update is there is no update.
Is there is there truth to the report that the framework exists for the two teams to make a deal, but it's really up to Ayuk to get it done and the Niners to finally just pull the trigger on that? I mean, is optimism fading for Brandon and Ayuk to Pittsburgh, I guess is what I'm wondering.
It's tough to say. I think the longer this goes on, the more likely it is that Ayuk stays in San Francisco. It feels like the 49ers and the Steelers it feels like between the 49ers and Ayuk, they're waiting for somebody to blink. Ayuk, the sense I get is that he wants to stay in San Francisco. San Francisco wants to keep Ayuk, but Ayuk wants to make more money than they're offering him. He's from out that way. He's from Reno. That's not super far from the Bay Area. I believe he bought a house there last year. His family's out there. I get the sense that that's where he wants to be, but the money has to be right or right enough for him to accept. And I just get the sense at this point these guys are really stubborn. They want what they want, but things can change. They change very quickly, especially in this situation. It feels like they've changed directions 5 different times in the last week or in the last 2 weeks. But I still think this ends with Ayuk staying in San Francisco.
To what degree has this been a distraction from this standpoint, Brooke? Because I don't know what's true and what's not, but there's all these rumors, speculation that George Pickens is involved in this deal, or maybe it's Brett Freiermuth, or how is the team dealing with it? Is it a distraction at all?
I don't think it's a distraction because from what I've been told, the Steelers have been very firm with the 49ers that any trade would absolutely not involve a player. It would be just draft capital, which is why I think that the trade doesn't make sense from the 49ers' perspective, because if they were only going to get draft capital, why was this deal not done back around the time of the draft when they could have easily flipped that and gotten a receiver in the draft, another receiver in the draft? Instead, they'd probably have to get a third team involved if they wanted to get a tangible player acquisition in return. So from that perspective, I don't think the team is worried about or is distracted about oh man, could we be losing somebody, that sort of thing. But I do think, Van Jefferson, to his credit, has been interviewed, I think, every day after practice for the last week, and he has answered every question. He's been so patient. But he's gotten a lot of, what do you think about the Steelers maybe trying to trade for Ayuk? Does that add motivation to you? Does that discourage you? Because at this point, Van Jefferson is the Steelers' number 2 receiver. I think he's looked better than expected through camp. But, it's got to be frustrating when you're that guy getting asked, hey, do you think the team's going to bring in your replacement? It's been talked about a lot. Do you think that they don't have faith in you? But I think by and large, the Steelers are able to insulate themselves from it because they go away to camp. Granted, they're now back in Pittsburgh, but for at least the last month, they've been in a nice little bubble in Latrobe, but it's easier to shut some of that noise out. So I'm interested to see how much longer this drags on and if this does anything to these guys before it resolves in this kind of interim between training camp and the regular season starting.
Brooke Pryor covers the Pittsburgh Steelers for ESPN's NFL Nation. She joins us now in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. Brooke, if I give the Steelers credit for anything this offseason, they took a quarterback room that wasn't very productive last year and completely flipped it for next to zero investment. There's really no risk involved, just a slight investment in cash for Fields and for Russell Wilson. So my question is, how do the two look? We've heard Russell is going to be the starter. We've never really heard Mike Tomlin back down from that, but we also know Justin Fields has designs on getting on the field. The injury early in camp to Russell's calf, and it seems like we're going to see him a little bit tomorrow night. Break down the quarterback competition.
Yeah, I think that this is one where Russell Wilson will start week 1, but the better that Justin Fields looks in, training camp in the preseason and these next couple practices, the smaller Russell Wilson's margin for error is, because the Steelers want to ride with the veteran out of the gate. It's much easier to go from Russell Wilson to Justin Fields than Fields to Russell Wilson if things don't shake out well with Fields from the get-go. But I do think that Fields is playing more comfortably in this system maybe than he was the last 2 years in Chicago. And a big reason for that is because the Steelers told him when it comes to his throwing base in the shotgun, do what feels natural. And for him, that means starting with his right foot forward before they snap the ball, before the center snaps the ball. And then when he receives the snap, then flip to lead with his left foot. And that's what he did at Ohio State. That's what he did his first year in Chicago. And then Luke Getsy and Matt Eberflus flip-flopped it for his last 2 years in Chicago, and that's created that extra half second of thinking, of processing before he went through his reads, because it just wasn't natural. And he started to go back to his natural stance beginning in January with his personal quarterbacks coach. When he got to Pittsburgh, they said, hey, close your eyes. What feels natural? Let's do that. And because of that, I think that he just has more trust with this staff. It's allowed him to play in a more natural way and just, I think, fit in more seamlessly to what's going on, adapt faster. And that's led to him making some pretty impressive plays in camp, not only with his arm, but with his legs too. He is as good as advertised in terms of his big play ability, the scrambles, the runs, the designed runs. All of that's great. The decision making in terms of going through the reads and things like that, I need to see in a game more. But I think that he has looked good, but that also is not going to change the Steelers' mind for week one, because they've also long had a stance of, if you are the starter, you're not going to lose your position because of injury. If you're the starter, you get hurt, you go out. When you come back, you regain your spot until someone else takes it, or until your performance means that you're going to be supplanted. But I think that Russell Wilson has been a pro through this calf injury, through coming back very, very slowly. He went vertical a lot in practice yesterday, showed off that moon ball. Assistant GM Andy Weidel called it a majestic moon ball. And I think adds a wrinkle that this offense didn't necessarily have with Kenny Pickett. The vertical game just wasn't there in the same way. So I think that this quarterback room is very different from what it was. At this point, I think that it's better. I think that the floor is higher. But I'm really interested to see Wilson get out there. I know it's a preseason game, but just to see what that timing's like, because you can see a guy look like he's thriving during training camp, and then it all goes off the rails as soon as the regular season starts. So there's still a lot to be determined.
Yeah, a lot new there in Pittsburgh. Brooke Pryor, ESPN NFL Nation reporter, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Brooke, one of the new things, and I'm going to admit my bias here because it's a little warped, because in fantasy football, why is Arthur Smith not running Bijan Robinson? We would get all upset, but like what's the adjustment here been with Arthur Smith? What is going to be the identity of this offense? How is Arthur Smith's offense going over with the Steeler fan base? I guess by comparison, because every Steeler fan I kind of talked to wasn't too happy with Matt Canada last year.
Yeah, by comparison, there is no comparison. I think that it's a night and day difference, because whoever the offensive coordinator is, it's not Matt Canada. I do think the fan base was hoping for, someone from a Kyle Shanahan tree, a Kubiak tree, something that felt more innovative than what Arthur Smith was doing, or at least something was maybe more exciting, a stronger passing game. But Arthur Smith is a run-first guy, a lot of play action, but everything is flowing through the trenches, which I think actually fits the identity of the Steelers organization better than some of the West Coast offenses. And in this case, it's not just about the running backs he has, it's about how much better the offensive line should be. Zach Frazier's a rookie. He's looked really good. Seems like he should get an opportunity to play more with the ones, because Nate Herbig missed some of practice the other day, is kind of banged up. And he, is a really tough center. They also drafted Troy Fautanu to be right tackle, but he is now banged up with a knee injury. But they've really spent a lot of resources to make this offensive line better, which should then in turn help the run game open up a little bit more. The run game with the backups looked pretty good in week one. I think they had over 100 yards on the ground, which is better than it was last year. I like how Najee Harris and Jalen Warren kind of balance each other out, but I would also keep an eye on Cordero Patterson. He does a little bit of everything, and they have used him in this offense in 7 shots, which is their lineup from the 2-yard line. They've used him as a receiver, as a running back. He's done kind of whatever they need him to. So I'm interested to see how that translates to the regular season with the regular offense. But I think that this run game is more multiple and versatile than it has been in the last couple of years under Matt Canada.
And Brooke, on the defensive side of the ball, Terrell Austin's got it feels like a little bit of an embarrassment of riches. I'm kind of jealous. I mean, you've got stars at all 3 levels of the defense with Watt and Hayward on the line, and now the Patrick Queen, sneaky good addition to a linebacking core that really needed it, and of course on the back end, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr. continues to emerge. Tell us a little bit about how that defense is shaping up here, and your projection for them here come week one.
Yeah, you're right. The defense does. You list out all those names, and it's like, my goodness, could they pack any more star power in one defense? And that's, not even mentioning Alex Highsmith opposite of TJ Watt, who's been an under the radar but really solid edge rusher. I also think the safety position is in a much better spot than they finished with last year, when injuries really took a toll, because they added Deshaun Elliott, who has been a really interesting addition. And then Beanie Bishop is a name that I would watch. He's an undrafted rookie. Right now is in, to borrow Mike Tomlin's favorite phrase, pole position to be the starting nickelback with some injuries that have happened. But he, I think, has really stepped up early and looks like he'll be a playmaker in a spot that the Steelers haven't had a consistent one the last couple of years. But, up front, too, I would keep an eye on Keanu Benton. He stepped up big time last year when Cam Hayward went down with an injury early, because that is a group that is aging. Cam Hayward's getting older. Larry Ogunjobi has had injury issues, but Mon Adams has had a good camp. So is Keanu Benton. I think that this defense as a whole is deeper than last year, but corner, I would keep an eye on it. Yes, they traded for Dante Jackson. He's been a pretty well-rounded corner, but Joey Porter Jr. has not flashed the way that he did last year in camp. And it feels like he could be hitting a sophomore slump, but I don't want to be the one to challenge a Porter, because Joey Porter is, his dad, fearless, game-wrecking guy. I don't want to have like Papa Bear turn on me, but I think that Joey Porter Jr. could have some struggles getting started this season if he doesn't kind of turn things around from camp.
Yeah, Brooke Pryor, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Danger, before we got on, I was talking to Brooke off air, just wishing her good luck tomorrow night, because I don't want Brooke and everybody else on both the Bills and Steelers beat working past midnight should the game go that long. And the news today from Buffalo, which kind of cued us in here. Wait a second. Sean McDermott says, well, we'll play the starters, but it's weather dependent. Like, uh-oh. Brooke, how good is your phone when it comes to getting a good weather app for tomorrow night?
As long as Apple keeps updating that information, it's been pretty accurate here. I will be refreshing it constantly and also bringing a raincoat, an umbrella, maybe rain boots just in case. I think there's supposed to be, scattered thunderstorms tomorrow night. So hopefully we can at least get through the first half. And then I can't imagine people from any side would complain if it got called after a half. Maybe the guys that are trying to make the roster who would like the opportunity to get in a game, but I know from the press box there would be no complaints.
Brooke, I can't help but look ahead to the regular season and think about what lies ahead for Pittsburgh. When you look at their schedule, it feels like the NFL did them a pretty decent solid here, or I guess depending on your point of view, really want to see Pittsburgh not fall apart early in the season, because you don't have a divisional opponent on your schedule in Pittsburgh until week 11 when you host the Ravens, and then you've got division heavy down the stretch. Is it fair to think that the Steelers could get off to a really, really hot start before the trials of a season kind of catch up to them towards the end of the season, and maybe a little bit of a late season collapse? What's your thought on the schedule as how it lays out for the Steelers?
I think one thing that's helped the Steelers in the last couple of years is they have had an early division game against teams that got hot later on. I think it was a couple of years ago they beat the Bengals in week 1 with Mitch Trubisky, and I think that was a game that TJ Watt got hurt in and then was done for half the season. But that game ended up having a huge difference in them trying to make the playoffs there at the end. I think that the Steelers, against divisional opponents at least, were able to catch some teams by surprise early in the season before everybody hit their stride. So I do think that from a Steelers perspective, it stinks to get all of your division opponents backloaded when injuries are starting to pile up, when other teams are also hitting their groove, and the Steelers have had these late season slumps before they hit the final 3-4 games of the season. Sometimes they kind of bottom out there around weeks 12, 13. And they just can't afford to do that this year. They have had some rocky starts the last couple of years. The offense hasn't been able to gel. The offensive line hasn't been together. The quarterbacks are all over the place. So my takeaway looking at the schedule is that the Steelers kind of have to get off to a fast start to be able to withstand injuries, things like that are popping up late in the season when those games really, really matter. They have no wiggle room after the bye week. So that just, I think, adds to the pressure of it. But maybe that's good. Maybe, by that point, Justin Fields is starting, or maybe by that point, Russell Wilson has really solidified himself as a trustworthy QB1, and there aren't the questions every week the way that there has been in years past. But it's going to be really interesting, and it's definitely going to mean that, I already was going to tune into the Hard Knocks AFC North season later this year, but now most of the Steelers games are AFC North opponents late in that year, so I think it just makes that series even more interesting.
Brooke Pryor, Prior Knowledge, ESPN NFL Nation reporter. Brooke, what can our listeners go check out as we read up on tomorrow night's game?
As I mentioned, the stuff about Justin Fields' footwork, I have a piece up on ESPN.com kind of going into the why and the why it's significant part of just what this footwork means and why Justin Fields is feeling more confident in Pittsburgh. So that is on the website right now.
Brooke, appreciate the time, and have a good time. Try to stay dry tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Brooke.
There's Brooke Pryor covering the Steelers for ESPN's NFL Nation. Week 11, they host Baltimore. Week 12, at Cleveland. 13, at Cincinnati.
Wow.
14, against Cleveland. 15, at Philadelphia. Week 16, at Baltimore. Week 17, Christmas, they host the Chiefs. And they wrap the season hosting the Bengals in Week 18. If you're getting 2 wins down the stretch, I think that's a success. You need to start the season. If you're Pittsburgh, you need 8 wins. At least 8 wins. I had to take, this is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season. I can't imagine them getting through that gauntlet at the end of the season.
All right, I'm gonna put something out here for every Steeler fan that could give you some optimism, because what you said, it sounds brutal, but tell me, like, another athlete that has had this story arc. You're 1 win away from the Hall of Fame. Check that. You're 1 yard away from the Hall of Fame. 1 yard. If they hand the ball off, you win back-to-back Super Bowls. Russell Wilson is in the Hall of Fame. Although he's never gotten an MVP candidate, up until that final year in Seattle, we're all saying he's one of the best in the game. And then what happened? It just because he had a terrible head coach in Hackett and even worth one? Or was it Russ? Did the skills just go off a cliff? What was it? Like, can there be a redemption story for Russell? I hear what Brooke is saying, that the hope is Justin Fields. He can figure it out. And that Fields is actually the guy with a higher ceiling. But what happened to Russell Wilson here?
I don't like either of them, Gene. I don't think either of them are.
No, statistically, they were both terrible.
They're not good.
No.
They're not good quarterbacks. And to answer your question, what happened to Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson happened to Russell Wilson. Let Russ cook. Let Russ cook. Pete Carroll was right. Pete Carroll knew how to manage him and get the most out of that team with Russell Wilson's deficiencies masked by a great run game. As soon as they let Russ cook, everything fell apart in Seattle. And you can't tell me that Sean Payton isn't a good enough coach for Russell Wilson. It couldn't work with Sean Payton. I give Tomlin a lot of credit. He's a good head coach. We mentioned it. He's never had a losing season. I'm not sure if you've heard that before or not, but yeah, it's actually true that Tomlin has never had a losing season as Steelers head coach. So he's a good coach, and you would think a good coach could get something out of a guy like Russell Wilson if Russell Wilson can get out of Russell Wilson's way.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, he was, second worst last year in getting rid of the ball. It was over 3 seconds.
And Fields wasn't much better.
No. So, but the one word out of Brooks' interview there you can pull out, moonball. Yeah, that was Russ at his peak in Seattle, where he would throw that ball and you wouldn't be on the screen. Then all of a sudden, boop, it lands in the Lockett or Metcalf or one of those. Like, is that an element that the Steelers can kind of live more big plays?
Look, I like the idea that they recognized our quarterback room sucks last year. They had horrible quarterback play from Pickett, from Rudolph, Trubisky. It was bad.
Pickett is so bad, he might be the number 3 in Philadelphia.
It's bad, right?
Yeah.
So where I'll give them credit is they flipped that room with minimal risk and investment. And you've got some some names to work with. I just don't know that I trust either of those names. And, having watched Justin Fields in Chicago, he's athletic and he can run past anybody. And you heard Brooke kind of mention it. Can he read a defense? Can he make the right read? Can he pull the trigger? I didn't see enough of it in Chicago, obviously.
To me, it feels like, okay, and the Bills also are going on the cheap, by and large, at the wide receiver position, hoping something sticks.
You have George Pickens and?
No, I'm saying the Bills wide receivers. Yeah, I'm just comparing the two, the Steeler quarterback room where you say give them credit. No, give them credit they did it cheap.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got to make that investment. And maybe the investment is actually come next year in the draft. Try again here.
Possibly. Really appreciate Brooke giving us a little insight here into the Bills' opponent tomorrow night. Again, 5 o'clock, our coverage begins with pregame as the Steelers host the Bills week 2 of the preseason kickoff just after 7 o'clock on the Fan Rochester. Next in the sports bar. I'm ready to make a declaration, Gino. It's not hot uniform talk. This is the opposite, the antithesis of hot uniform talk. In fact, these get-ups, I will now say, and I had this feeling, this belief, I'm now going to say with strong conviction, I have identified the worst uniforms in all of sport all time.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
You will not be able to top
Worst,
these.
like the Seahawks lime green.
Nope.
No. Okay. Is this current?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna talk baseball. I'm down and out.
You are, aren't you?
I
Lost a series to the A's.
There's a reason. And
is there really?
If the narrative that Grimace sent the Mets on their way, this ended the season. It wasn't Grimace throwing out the first pitch for crying out loud yesterday. It's Blue Friday here in the sports bar.
She's talking to pitchers. You got to spit on that thing. She's talking to pitchers, Major League Baseball pitchers. You got to spit on that thing, Gino. Haktua.
Bring your family, bring your wife. That's the name of the song. We're gonna have.
We'll get some takes next, and we'll be joined.
They're breaking me. They're breaking me.
Michael F. Florio stops by the sports bar, talks some fantasy football in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Here on the Fan.
W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Indeed, Josh Allen and the Bills starters will see action tomorrow night. It's preseason game number 2 against the Steelers. Be advised, thunderstorms are in the forecast. One of the players to watch, linebacker Dorian Williams. Williams on defensive coordinator Bobby Babich.
He always tells us why he's calling things. I think that's a big reason of understanding, what the offense is trying to do to us, understanding what Bobby's thinking, understanding what the offense is trying to think. And I think all the coaches have done a very good job of getting us all on the same page.
Coverage on the Fan begins at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio with the call beginning at 7. We'll talk some fantasy football later this hour. Michael F. Florio from the NFL Network to join us. Rochester Red Wings homestand continues. Tonight, the Syracuse Mets, the opponent. One game in the majors. The Cubs outbound the Jays 4-2. They're in the 6th. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Really excited to see, the growth that we need to happen this week and look forward to it.
Well, they want to see changes from last week. They want to see young players step up. They want to see veteran players build on what they've done, particularly the guys who have not been here.
Mike Danger.
The NFL is just, it's gangster.
Gene Battaglia.
This is a blow for the Buffalo Bills not having one of their top playmakers.
Chase Claypool's time with the Bills has effectively come to an end.
The journey just got a little harder. Lano is a special dude. He'll be back, and he'll fight through it.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
In the latest of a long line of moves the Bills have made this offseason and preseason that I don't like, Josh Allen and the starters are going to play about a quarter and a half, according to Sean McDermott. That's in tomorrow night's game in Pittsburgh. I don't like it, Gene. I don't like it.
It fits with everything else, though. Like, we need to get we're not canceling the last day of mini camp. We're going to play out there against the Bears. You put it this way. If you don't do it tomorrow night, you're probably doing it against Carolina? Or is that it for the offense? You'll see you against Arizona.
If they don't look good tomorrow, McDermott has brought them out there week 3. He did it last year, right? It was the same scenario.
Right.
Pittsburgh, you're in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh dominated the preseason action.
Okay, here's what I would say. It's okay to have these new receivers and a revamped offensive line. I don't want 17 out there. 17 can't help himself. Once he's out there, he's not thinking. He's thinking, I'll get the first down, keep the drive alive. It's preseason. I agree with you. I don't
like the move.
I wouldn't do that either.
The only move they've made that I like this offseason, is John Perry. John Perry is the move that makes sense to me. This move does not make sense to me. But we will see Josh Allen and the healthy starters for the Buffalo Bills for at least a quarter, potentially a quarter and a half, weather dependent, tomorrow night in Pittsburgh.
I didn't tell you this. I went on Binkley's show last night.
Oh, no kidding.
Which was an honor, I consider, because they're no longer 610 Sports Kansas City.
Yeah, that's right.
They're 96.5, The Fan Kansas City. They're still in the 610 format, so now they're on the FM, and now they have the rights to the Chiefs, so things are kind of blowing up, and Bink does the show at night when the Royals weren't playing, so I went on. The narrative there, Danger, is why, still to this day, thank you for Xavier Worthy. Thank you. Why would you trade with Kansas City if you're the Buffalo Bills? I'm like, Jay, I can't explain it. Little draft capital, I still wouldn't do it to help an opponent. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it.
The Chiefs are just that much smarter than everybody in Buffalo. I guess that's the only answer that will satiate them.
Yeah.
You're right. Why would we? You guys are just so much better.
Well, and then, where do the Bills fit in the landscape of the AFC? I'm like, I'll tell you where they fit. Right now, they don't compare. They got a lot of work to do. You can't compare them to Kansas City or Cincinnati or Baltimore, okay?
Yeah,
Cleveland. No, what I'm saying, though, is you just got to compare them to the AFC East. Mm-hmm. And then are they a top 14?
Yeah, unlike last season and maybe the last few seasons, you are looking at them with a wider lens and saying, where do they fit in the landscape of the AFC? And is this the year they can overtake Kansas City in the postseason? And this year, I don't think we're having that conversation. I think we are dialed in on, all right, look, if they win the East, great. Then they can,
Let's see
maybe
where
they
we're
can
at.
surprise some
Yeah.
people in the postseason. Maybe Josh Allen can not get outplayed by Patrick Mahomes in the postseason and get that, evasive win over Kansas City when it matters most.
Has to be over Kansas City.
Has to be.
Has to be. That's the way it's got to be.
Don't want it any other way.
Before we get to the Week 1 game, Danger, I got to admit I'm not aware of certain things. I try to be kind of knowledgeable in many different topics. We're going to bring you many different things outside of sports.
I'm putting this out there to preface what you're about to say. Old man take on the way.
It's not an old man take.
Well, you just said I'm not aware of things that are going on.
I'm not aware. Like, I saw this yesterday across my feed, and I didn't think anything of it. Okay, here's Haley Welch throwing out the first pitch of the Mets game.
Who's Haley Welch?
I'm thinking, okay, this is an actress I'm not familiar with. This is somebody on 98PXY I'm not familiar with. Okay, so that's maybe where the old talk. Like, did you know? Did I find this out? She's the Hawk Tua girl?
Yes, Gino. Yes.
The
God.
Mets? Really? Really? This is who threw out the first pitch?
Yes, Gino.
I'm not gonna. If you're not familiar, I can't explain it. Okay,
I'll explain it. This young woman, I believe is a teacher, went viral for being caught on video talking about special treatment. You have to spit on that thing. Haktua. And for a moment, maybe like a good 24 to 48 hours, everybody was talking about Haktua. And I think I was on vacation when this happened too.
Yeah.
You and I might have been off when this all went down.
When all this happened, it was like, and I was like, okay, it wouldn't be anything we'd be talking about on our show, but there she is throwing out the first pitch. You mean to tell me in a season that was down in the dumps, and then, oh, great, here's Grimace, and I'm getting mocked. Every Mets fan is getting mocked. But then the Mets go on a run, and you know what? We're going to own Grimace. Grimace is ours. And then it becomes a rallying cry. So much so that, like, yeah, Grimace gear, let me go get a shake. Yeah, absolutely. And now this has come full circle.
Yeah. I hope Catalana and Fates aren't listening right now. If they are listening right now, boys, it's happening. I know Fates is in Braves, yeah, but it's happening. Gino's starting. It's the meltdown is starting to happen.
It's not.
It's starting to happen. Where are they at? 2.5, 3.5 out.
I think 3.
It's starting. And
now you get Miami this week.
You're going to blame the Hawk Tua girl for any
We
issues.
mean I'm going to blame the Hawk Tua girl. Every year there's something. Like a couple years ago when, hey, the Mets were 100
has nothing to do with the girl who threw out the first pitch.
It absolutely does.
Has zero to do.
Everything,
No.
Always.
No.
There's always something.
You're making excuses for a bad baseball team that can't win a series against the A's.
No, it was Timmy Trumpet a couple years ago.
Stop.
Timmy Trumpet comes out.
That was the
and
most.
Seinfeld says, "What are we doing? You shouldn't do this. This is a bad
It was
sign."
so
and then they
badass.
Go into the tank.
Walk-off updates.
It was so badass when Timmy Trumpet, when they blared that and he came out, and it was awesome. That was awesome.
And they went into the tank.
And then he injured himself. And
oh gosh, now to put the Hawk Tua girl out there. Like, by the way, like,
I think it's
the Mets,
great.
like, family fun with the Mets.
I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. I think that they're showing the world that they're on top of current affairs. I think the first political candidate that mentions Hawk Tua probably wins the election, right? Like it just shows an awareness that you're fun, that you know what's going on in meme culture, and this girl's star is shining bright right now. I think she was offered a bunch of money from Barstool or somebody. She's gotten a lot of this kind of opportunity.
Yeah, like whatever music fest they've been flying her around.
Good for her, man.
Overnight sensation.
Good for her. She's
but
hammered.
I don't need my favorite team.
She's hammered. She gives us a moment of vulnerability that she really probably didn't need, especially if she's a teacher. She probably didn't really need to do.
She's still a teacher?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But God bless her. Bless her soul, as they would say in the South. Bless her soul.
Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. I love it. And if you're going to blame our precious Hawk to a girl on your Mets deficiencies, Gino. I'm not here for it. I can't stand for it. And this is the beginning of the meltdown. This is where it starts. We're going to mark the day. It's August 16th. Catalana, if you're listening, it's starting. It's starting, buddy. It's only going to get better from this point on.
Catalana's on vacation. Fates is in Pittsburgh. I'm bringing us up on a day where I know either both are out of range.
Strategic.
Yes.
So it has nothing to do with them losing a series to the A's and losing a game where she throws out the first pitch.
By the way, don't anybody tweet or text me if you have my phone number or anything this week if they lose to the Marlins. When I say if, I know what happens here.
Oh, it's so good. You do know what happens here. This is we were warning you about this all season, and then you started to get a little. Hey, we're in the wild card hunt. Hey, look at Gino. Don't do it. Don't. Oh, here we go. We're back, and the Mets are back. It's too easy to predict.
Of course, like everybody writing their headlines on a day where Haley Welch threw out the first pitch, of course the Mets blew a 5-0 lead.
I don't want to know about Mrs. Welch. Miss Welch. I just want to know her as Hawk to a girl. That's where she will live, and bless her heart, as they say. Good for her. Speaking of baseball, so my Cubs are playing at Wrigley this afternoon. It was in my feed, and I noticed that they're wearing their City Connect jerseys. Ugh. Now, we've had a chance as baseball fans to live with these abominations for some time now, and I'm ready to make a declaration. The Padres City Connect jerseys are the worst uniform in any sport from any time.
What?
All time.
Why?
All time.
Why?
You've seen them. You know why.
They're not bad.
You've seen them. You know why. I don't even want to describe them because I can't. It's indescribable.
It's tropical. It's the pastel colors. Yeah.
San Diego is tropical all of a sudden. Is it that they're in the tropics? They're in the Bahamas. I don't understand what they're getting at. And it's almost as if the decision makers with the Padres thought, you know what? We've been forcing our fans to wear this hideous gear for so long. How far can we actually push them? They've been wearing brown and yellow all these years. Here we go. Have these City Connect jerseys that have absolutely no connection to our city and look offensive. There's a lot of contenders to be sure. I can't get these out of my mind just because of how offensive they are to me.
I see that, and I've been to San Diego a couple times, and I think of the zoo. I see the pink. I see the flamingos. I see that's kind of the vibe I get. I don't hate them. And by the way, Padre fans for years they were clamoring about the brown. It's like they own the color brown. Padre fans love that color. When they went over to the Navy, like, no, bring back the brown, and they did bring back the brown. There are other ones that are just gross. The Cubs, for instance, the Mets, terrible. Good on the Yankees. They didn't get involved in this. The Yankees are like, no, we don't need it.
No, it's smart. They don't need to.
No, like what the Phillies wearing the Navy? That doesn't make any sense.
None of them are great.
No.
The entire theme is terrible, but these offend me as a sports fan so much. I am willing to say you could throw any bad uniform at me, and I'd be like, nope, not as bad. They're just not. There won't be a uniform to me as hideous as the Padres City Connect jerseys. But then again, what do we expect? Of course they're eating it up. Of course they want their brown uniforms. This is San Diego we're talking about here.
Really going down to yellow and brown. That's what's in. Padres on the loose. Let's go, Goose. That's what's in.
Yeah, you dorks deserve what you get. The worst uniforms in all of sport all time. No.
That song was so good. It was so bad it was good.
No. Gene? Stop.
Send back, Philly back.
Bad.
Send back, Philly
it's bad.
back.
It's all bad.
No, the city, I think the Angel City Connect I like because it's got that 60s surfing vibe. Miami's okay because that's, it fits the Cuban culture. Is there any other ones that... Well, the White Sox, maybe.
You're just talking about City Connect jerseys.
Yeah,
I think
right,
almost all of them are garbage.
Trash, yeah.
I'm saying these are worse than any sport, any uniform, any era. They are the worst of all time. The woat.
I sorry, like for Boston, the Red Sox to wear the marathon uniform's terrible.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that. Where are your uniforms?
Speaking of terrible, look, if you're in the segment listening every week, you know we pick one game to kind of warm you up. Because do we want to talk about the preseason matchups? No. We want to talk about week one, games that you're actually going to bet on and you can make money on. So let's examine one here. Spotlighting today, drum roll please. Saints and Panthers. Saints -5. Look, we had to get this one out of the way at some point. Is there a game you're less enthusiastic about? Like, what is the vibe? What's the reason to watch this game? Last year, I said Bryce Young. No, he sucks. He's bad. The line started at Saints -4.5. Now it's -5. And they're not playing Bryce Young in the preseason.
I know.
Like, what would make us believe that the Panthers actually have Bryce Young fixed and that he's going to be unleashed and they're going to have a big win?
Dave Canales, that's why.
Yeah.
All neck Dave Canales.
I would say, yeah, he's all neck. I would say take the -5 now because I could see it go to 5.5, maybe 6. Saints to cover.
Yeah, and I would say even if it does get to 6 or 6.5, I would still take the Saints to win by a touchdown or more against the Panthers. I don't have any expectations for the Panthers this year. They don't have any talent on that roster. And to hear Dan Leberfeld yesterday joint practice with the Jets and the Panthers talk about the void that exists between the talent on the Jets versus the talent on the Panthers really should tell you all you need to know. They're not very good.
Well, one of their starting corners, headline, starting corner missed 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring injury. Dane Jackson, oh my gosh, that's right. He went down there.
That's right.
Oof.
F, stopping by the sports bar next. We'll talk some fantasy football with Michael F. Florio of NFL Network. Where are you drafting Brandon Ayuk with that unresolved issue? What about Jamar Chase? Yeah, we'll get into some fantasy headlines with Michael F. Florio next on The Fan.
Sports Update.
Josh Allen and the Bills starters to see action tomorrow night. The Bills playing preseason game number 2 in Pittsburgh, where the forecast calling for thunderstorms. Deion Dawkins knows it's important to get the work in.
Everybody just has to be ready because in this league, obviously, it's 100% injury rate. Sometimes it's 200, sometimes it's 300, and guys just have to be ready to go.
Chris Brown, Eric Woods, Al Capaccio with the call tomorrow night here on The Fan. Fantasy football talk coming up next. Michael F. Florio from the NFL Network joining us here in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings homestand continuing tonight. Syracuse is the opponent. One game in the majors. 5-2 the Cubs up on the Jays at Wrigley. They are in the 8th inning. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Just to avoid all confusion, we just refer to him as F. That's our buddy, Michael F. Florio. Fantasy football talk on NFL Network, Fantasy Sports Radio. Joining us in the Sports Bar, F, I'm curious how you're proceeding with Brandon Ayuk through all of this. If you've got a draft this weekend or in the next week, are you drafting Brandon Ayuk as if he's going to be a 49er? Is that the safest bet?
Yeah, first, thank you for having me. And yes, I am. So technically I'm not. I would if I had to, but because everyone else is so worried, Brandon Ayuk is sliding a little bit. Like in early drafts back in May, June, even early July, he was a wide receiver 1. You had to take him as one of the first 12 wide receivers off the board. A lot of the times he was going inside the top 10. But now, after all of this fear and stuff, on a lot of drafts, he's fallen closer to wide receiver 20. Deebo Samuel has jumped ahead of him. And look, a lot could happen. But this entire time during all of this, I have been drafting Brandon Ayuk. I was drafting him in May when he was a wide receiver 1. I am drafting him a bunch more now at a discount because from the start of this, my reading of the situation at least has been the most likely outcome is Brandon Ayuk returns to the 49ers. He is set to make more money this year than he has in the previous years of his NFL career combined. He has to play in order to become a free agent. He cannot hold out all year. To me, I think this was like a game of poker. Brandon Ayuk is like, I want to get traded. The 49ers are like, okay, we'll call the Steelers up. Then Ayuk is like, cool, I worked out a deal with the Steelers, trade me. They're like, the 49ers are like, cool, yeah, we have a deal in place too. None of them really want this to happen outside of the Steelers. I think Brandon Ayuk wants to be a 49er, and I think the 49ers know that this core that has come so close to winning a Super Bowl year after year is in their potentially final year of being all together. I don't see any way they would mess it up, and I think Brandon Ayuk doesn't want to play anywhere else. I think he just wants to get paid.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to have the number 1 overall pick, I think you're taking McCaffrey. However, every year, it seems like every year. It was only one game last year, but there's always, that possibility. Handcuff is not the right word, but in case of emergency, is there anybody you would want to target as far as a backup running back in San Francisco, Michael?
I like Jordan Mason the most of them all right now because he seems to be the one that has gotten the most work with the ones while CMC missed some time. But I truly think if Christian McCaffrey goes down, it's going to be a committee. They have Jordan Mason. They have Elijah Mitchell. They have Isaac Guerrero, the rookie that is a speedster that they just drafted. He had the fastest 40 of any running backs in this class. So I think the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan are geniuses, and they can kind of get the most out of a rushing attack. Obviously, having CMC do it all helps, but if he goes down, I think we kind of get a committee. I don't think there's any one person that steps in and fills those shoes.
Michael, where do you come down on players who aren't getting a lot of reps during the preseason? We talked about Ayuk. I look at a guy like Jamar Chase, who is fantasy gold, but we've also – there's a deep history here of players who kind of missed the preseason, pulling up lame early in the season with soft tissue injuries. Do you expect that is still the case, or do you think that, times have changed and these guys keep themselves in football shape and you don't really have anything to worry about? Go take Chase where you would normally take him.
That's how I operate. I understand that not everyone wants to do that. And like, if you're worried about CeeDee Lamb, you could pivot to Tyreek Hill. If you're worried about Jamar Chase, you could pivot to Amon-Ra St. Brown or Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. Like, there's other guys in that tier that you can pivot to, and you'll get very similar production. But what I wouldn't do is, like, say those other guys go ahead of Jamar Chase. I wouldn't then pass on Jamar Chase for a wide receiver that I have in a lower tier just because of this holdout. Because I'm still kind of like, people are asking me all week, are you worried about CeeDee Lamb? And my response continues to be, if this is still a story 2 weeks from now, then yes, I will be worried. But I think this is just more business as usual and kind of what life in the NFL has become. These guys have to hold out to get paid. The teams drag it out to try to get the best deal possible. I don't see any world where Jamar Chase isn't playing this year, where CeeDee Lamb isn't playing, or is maybe I get the concern about missing time, but I'm not really lowering them at all, at least not yet in my rankings, and I wouldn't suggest passing them in drafts just because of that.
Michael F. Florio talking fantasy football with us here in the Sports Bar. Big story in the NFL this week, what happened to the Vikings. Now, the good news is, if you haven't heard, it's nothing serious with Jordan Addison, carted off. He should be okay. But the hope at quarterback that we got to take over, we're going to have to wait a year here to see J.J. McCarthy. So with Sam Darnold now at quarterback, how, if at all, does that affect the rankings there for the Vikings in terms of fantasy, Michael?
So I've lowered Justin Jefferson one spot in my rankings. I had him at wide receiver 5. I have pushed him to wide receiver 6, putting A.J. Brown ahead of him, which to some is a hot take. But in my opinion, I'm like, he's got the better quarterback. He now has a play caller that should be more aggressive passing-wise, and especially downfield. We'll get more motion. I think A.J. Brown could be in store for a career year. T.J. Hawkinson, I'm still taking him in the same range because his is about more coming back from that ACL. Jordan Addison, I wanted no part of even before the injury to McCarthy or anything like that, but at least McCarthy was like, there's some potentially unknown upside here. Jordan Addison last year, he had less than 70 yards in all but 4 games. The 10 touchdowns really pushed him up in fantasy. But when Justin Jefferson played, his target share was just at around 15%. So I like the talent that is Jordan Addison, but I think just too much is working against him this season that I'll let other people draft him. Really, with the Vikings for me, it's Justin Jefferson. I'll take T.J. Hawkinson as my tight end too, and that's really all I'm actively targeting in my draft.
Hear me out on this for a second here. What if Sam Darnold is actually good? What if Sam Darnold hasn't been able to showcase his talents because of the dysfunctional teams that he's been a part of, save for San Francisco where he didn't get on the field because he didn't need to, but he's going into a team with a head coach who knows how to scheme receivers open, a good offensive line, certainly has weapons at the skill positions. Could this be a sneaky good year for Sam Darnold? Are you willing to take that leap of faith?
I'm not drafting him in, say, a 1-quarterback league, but if you play in like a super flex 2-quarterback leagues, he should 100% be on your radar because I'm not out going to be willing to say like Sam Darnold breakout year coming or anything like that. But to your point, I trust Kevin O'Connell, the head coach there who schemes up all the plays and everything. Last season, when he lost Kirk Cousins, Nick Mullins started 4 games. He threw for over 302 touchdowns in 3 of them. So, yes, there were some bad interceptions. I think that could be what we get out of Sam Darnold this year, where he's putting up numbers because the Vikings last year threw the ball the 3rd most in the NFL. So I think out of pure volume, he could put up numbers, but it'll probably be with a lot of questionable interceptions and stuff like that. Probably a better fantasy than real life type of quarterback.
Michael, there is one strategy here, and I have never employed this. And I know you're always supposed to follow the board the way it goes, but some people swear by this. I don't want to get your thoughts. Zero RB, meaning, all right, I'm going to load up on every other position, and every year there's going to be some running back we've never even heard of who's going to be productive, and rather than, spend capital on a guy that could get hurt, I'm going to take a bunch of guys nobody's ever heard of, and one of them is going to pop. Do you think there's any merit to that strategy? And B, for those people that do look by that, I mean, we just talked about the Niners there a little bit, and you brought up the one there name there in Mason. Is there anybody that could fit the bill in the zero RB strategy?
Yeah, there's a ton of running backs who could fit the bill, like Blake Corum, Trey Benson, Ray Davis, but those are all guys who aren't going to be starters week one. And the zero RB strategy, like, you kind of understand the first couple of weeks are probably going to be rough for you. You're trying to find guys off the waiver wire, and then you have these backup running backs or so that if something happens to the starter, if James Conner misses time, Kyron Williams, James Cook here with the Bills were to miss time, someone like Ray Davis becomes someone that you could start automatically in fantasy in that build. But I personally do not love it. I tend to go more hero RB, or like modified zero RB, people will call it, where I like to get one guy that is the anchor of my running back room. So it'll almost never be in the first round. I like to get my wide receivers early, but in like the second, third, fourth round, there's a lot of appealing names like Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, Kyron Williams, that I want to get one of those guys to kind of be my every week starter, and then I'll take upside shots. I don't wait long enough to where like you're getting all backups, but I'll target pass catching running backs like Jaylen Warren. I think Austin Eckler's being overlooked right now. So I'll take shots on these upside guys because all I need then is for one to hit, and if one hits and I compare that player with Isaiah Pacheco or Derrick Henry or something like that, and I already have two good wide receivers on my team and stuff like that, now I'm cooking with fire. So I like to – I don't ever go aggressive running back, but hero RB where you get one guy in the early rounds that you're like, this is my anchor, and then I'll take upside shots and hope that someone hits.
Mike, maybe too early to ask this question. We're approaching week 2 of the preseason here for many teams, but I know that this time last year, I don't know how many people had Puka Nacua on their radar, and inevitably that week 1 waiver wire is where you find the most value if you're able to identify that player. I'm saying, is there a player that we can identify that we don't have to wait for the week 1 waiver wire? We're just going to pick him up and know that we're going to have that guy on our roster when we draft him.
So I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I was talking up Puka Nacua since the NFL draft. Once he ended up with the Rams and Sean McVay, I was like, I don't care what you think of him coming out of college. He now has the opportunity to be the number 2 target and play the Robert Woods role in Sean McVay's offense. So that's what I look for players this year. Because if you asked me at the start of last year, I would have told you I liked Puka. I wouldn't have told you the run he was going to go on. So my strategy is to target young upside players in the later rounds. Like I like Jermaine Burton from the Bengals a lot this year. I like Malachi Corley from the Jets is another one that I've been targeting. Adonai Mitchell on the Colts. And then there's a lot of young running backs as well. I believe that you want to target as many of these young players as possible in the later rounds. Like you want to build a safe core in the early rounds and then load your team with these like young upside shots because for 2 reasons. One, they're the ultimate lottery ticket. Not everyone's going to be Puka, but Tank Dell, Sam Laporta, Devon Achane, the list of rookies who break out every year is always a substantial one. And if they don't hit, then you will know very early on they're not going to hit because they're probably not getting opportunity and stuff like that. And you could throw them back on the waiver wire and take more upside shots. So to me, I think taking like safe, boring picks, like I know this guy is a reliable bye-week replacement in the double-digit rounds or something like that. That's bad picks. You could get players like that on the waiver wire in season. To me, I think your bench should be utilized to try to find those diamonds in the rough and those breakout players because if you build a safe core in the first 4 or 5 rounds of your draft, and all of a sudden now you're adding a Puka Nacua to your starting lineup, forget about it. You are a championship caliber team, and that's what I play for. I don't play to win in September. I play to win the final week of the season.
Yeah. In the preseason, Michael, I've learned over the years, don't overreact. Don't, know what the preseason's all about. With that being said, the disclaimer, we all here watched the Bears-Bills last week, and Caleb Williams, all right, this is our first time to see him on the field. There were 2 plays. One, people kind of singled out. I mean, to put it on 40 yards down the field, the arm strength, wow, that was a play when he hits the tight end. There's another play that you go back and watch right now where it's 3rd and long, and the Bills linebacker Dorian Williams makes a break on the play he shouldn't have. And my point is, that's the correct read. Good quarterbacking, identifying just within a split second, and he's going to find the receiver there. My question about Caleb Williams, just from what I saw, because now I'm starting to believe in this kid, where do you have the Bears offense? Because it's new, it's exciting, but ultimately, how is this going to help your fantasy team?
The Bears are one of those teams where I'm not actively, aggressively targeting any of their wide receivers, but I want Caleb Williams because there's so many 3 wide receivers that are – we haven't seen Rome Odunze at the NFL level, but I loved him as a prospect, and we know DJ Moore and Keenan Allen are elite talents who have relied on a lot of volume in their career. Now they have an OC that doesn't tend to pass a bunch, but, it could be one of those situations where this week is a big DJ Moore week. Next week is a big Keenan Allen week. Then it's a big Rome, and it's annoying or frustrating when you have that wide receiver. But when you have that quarterback, all of that production is baked in, and you don't have to worry about it week to week. And I was a big, big supporter of Caleb Williams when he was a prospect coming out. I mean, I'm far from the only one, but and you saw it in that Bills game last week where he made that one little flip. He's just got the playmaker gene in him, and I'm a believer that is something that you cannot teach. You either have it or you don't. Mahomes has it. Josh Allen has it. The special ones have that ability so that when a play breaks down and you have to go off structure, you're going to make something happen, and I think Caleb Williams is the next great one in line with that.
What's your projection for Deshaun Watson in Cleveland this year?
He's a very hard one to figure out because he was not playing well during his tenure last season, but his best game of the year was his final game of the year where he didn't have an incomplete pass on the road in Baltimore in the second half and ended up beating them. I have him ranked as a low-end QB2, but there is more upside there because even last year with him playing poorly, he was running near the goal line. So I believe it was in 3 of his 5 games that he played, he had over 18 fantasy points. So I think there's a little – and there's still – I don't want to say he's going to get back to what he was in Houston, but there's still some what if this guy could get anywhere close to what he used to be before he had the long layoff and stuff? So not someone that, again, I'm building a strategy around or something like that, but if you're looking for a QB2 with upside, he is one that fits the bill.
We don't talk much about kickers, and we certainly don't talk about defenses, but if you get the right fantasy defense, there was one year I picked up New England, and oh my gosh, they were just gold and kind of helped me out in a few wins here. So when we're getting to later in the draft, knowing we have this new kickoff rule too, that we don't know how that's going to play out. Maybe you find the team that cracks the code here on that, because those would count in fantasy. So how do you evaluate drafting your defense / special teams, knowing there is this new rule?
Yeah, I know a lot of people are very excited for this rule. I am hoping that we see some more kick returns and some more kick return touchdowns, but I'll be lying if I told you I think it's going to happen at a rate where it's going to there's going to be a defense that returns one every week that you want. I just don't see that happening. I think we'll see it happen more than it had been, but I don't think it's anything that you can plan or predict or something like that. So I've still been handling defenses the way that I always handle them. I will wait. I will probably be taking one in my last 2 picks in all my drafts are my kicker and my defense, usually my defense first. But I target defenses that have a week one opponent. So like the Bengals play the Patriots, the Bears play the Titans. I'm higher on the Cardinals, but the Bills play the Cardinals. That's a good one. The Falcons play the Steelers. So stuff like that. Like I'm always about targeting a weak offense, especially early on, because then a couple weeks as the season goes on, we'll learn more about who's a good offense, who's a good defense, and stuff like that. But week one, we're kind of going in with a lot of unknowns. So I just look at an offense that I think is pretty poor, and I try to target them.
I know you're probably listening right now thinking to myself, how can I get more of F's data as I'm prepping for my season-long draft or my redraft league here? Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, lay it all out for us, man, because your information is valuable and you're making us smarter football fans.
Oh, thank you so much. NFL Fantasy Live is back on the NFL Network, 6 p.m. Eastern. Right now, Monday through Wednesday, but a week from now, we'll be back Monday to Friday. NFL Fantasy Football Show, Stardom Stidham Show on the NFL YouTube will be back once the season starts. And then if you still want more, I'm doing writing and at Rotoballer. I have a podcast called Florio's Football Show, and I do a radio show on Sunday afternoons, Rotoballer Radio on Sirius XM Fantasy.
Michael F. Florio, your busiest time of the year. Appreciate you helping us out, and let's do this again soon.
Sounds good to me.
You got it. There he is. Michael F. Florio, NFL Network. A little fantasy football talk. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Good for him, by the way, too. I'm not changing my name. Like I've known people that have like the same name. Oh, I got to be something else here or whatever. No, that's who
who are you talking about? People that change their name. What do you mean? People change their name? You mean to tell me that happens? That people will come up with a stage name or a pen name?
There's a guy who does radio down in Washington. His name is Chris Russell. Oh, no, actually, no. His name is really Chris Russo.
Oh,
but because
Mad Dog.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want, but he didn't use his middle initials, so he became Chris Russell.
Ah.
Oh, wait, you're referring to yourself?
No, I would never. I would never.
I've just trained myself to call you Mike at all times, so that way I don't get confused.
I know we're going to talk about this later in Shots, but there's a very popular actor who actually changed his name as well.
For different reason. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good for Michael F. Florio. You throw in the F. He's F to me. Like that guy is great, and to give us time and share some insight during his busy season, can't thank him enough. Now, if you love the fantasy football talk and you want to get ready for your draft, you got a draft coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I'll just tee this up as well. We'll have more fantasy talk next week, Wednesday, 3:25. Put it in your phone. One of our favorites, Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys, will be stopping by. He'll take a deeper dive into some of these players that we'll be targeting.
Yeah, because when are most fantasy drafts? Around Labor Day weekend. Fair to say that yes, there are some drafts that are going on now. So between now and say right after Labor Day, and let's be honest, once final cuts are made, we'll have that sort of quiet time in the NFL. We're going to load up on the fantasy here as much as possible to help you through.
Yep. We're going to come back with Happy Hour next in the Sports Bar. We've got preseason week 2 tomorrow night from Pittsburgh, the Bills and the Steelers. We'll let you know a little bit more about that matchup, what we learned from Brooke Pryor from ESPN, who stopped by the Sports Bar last hour, and we learned from Sean McDermott today and the Bills today that the starters, the healthy starters, will get about a quarter and a half of play. There's a couple of other NFL headlines that we can get to as well, with a round of shots on deck here on The Fan. Rochester, stand by. Happy Hour next.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger. AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester, and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Bills head coach Josh Allen, Bills head coach Sean McDermott says that Josh Allen and the rest of the starters will see action coming up tomorrow night as the Bills play preseason game number 2 against the Steelers. Thunderstorms are in the forecast. One of the players to watch, linebacker Dorian Williams. Williams on his defensive coordinator, Bobby Babbitt.
He always tells us why he's calling things, and I think that's a big reason of understanding, what the offense is trying to do to us, understanding what Bobby's thinking, understanding what the offense is trying to think. And I think all the coaches have done a very good job of getting us all on the same page.
Chris Brown's Eric Wood, Sal Capaccio will have your call tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 5 o'clock here on The Fan Rochester. Wings are home tonight. Syracuse is the opponent. One game in the majors. The Blue Jays score 3 in the top of the ninth. Jays and Cubs are now tied at 5 at Wrigley. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Really excited to see, the growth that we need to happen this week, and look forward to it.
Well, they want to see changes from last week. They want to see young players step up. They want to see veteran players build on what they've done, particularly the guys who have not been here.
Mike Danger.
The NFL is just, it's gangster.
Gene Battaglia.
This is a blow for the Buffalo Bills not having one of their top playmakers.
Chase Claypool's time with the Bills has effectively come to an end.
The journey just got a little harder. Lano is a special dude. He'll be back, and he'll fight through it.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You can engage with us on X at The Fan Rochester. We're also at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. If you want to pull up a stool, it's happy hour, and that weekend is in front of us. Let's get there. I've got an update here from Hal on X. F the NFL and its blackout policies. We won't be able to see the Bills-Steelers tomorrow on NFL Network. Instead, we get Commanders-Dolphins. Time for dinner and a movie.
What?
No.
No. Whoa,
it's local TV. It'll be on 8, won't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go get the antenna. You're right. You won't see it on the NFL Network because it's on locally.
I feel like when I hear these complaints now, it's like I don't really have sympathy anymore. Like, I know that a lot of you are going to be watching the game tomorrow, but it is week 2 of the preseason. It's not a regular season game. I've got plans tomorrow night, Gino. Mm-hmm. I'm recording that game. I'm recording the Bears game. I'm going to watch both games when it fits my schedule. Because that's the world that we live in now.
Yeah.
We have that ability.
And also, here would be my suggestion, okay? Ready? It's the preseason, but if it is on local broadcast television, it is absolutely free in the NFL app. Got that?
Okay.
So you can get the antenna. You can get the NFL app. I don't know who wrote in there.
This is from Hal.
Hal. Okay, I know there's different platforms, whether it's Roku. I don't know what platform.
What's Roku?
Roku.
There you go.
Roku, Hulu. I was morphing the two there. Like you can get these games other ways. The antenna too. That's kind of what it's there for.
The antenna. I mean, yeah. I just get up. I turn the knob and turn it over to channel 8, click, 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 click until you get to channel 8. And then, maybe I adjust the coat hanger a little bit on the top of the TV just so I can get a little bit of a clearer reception. And there it is. Yeah, I think you'll be able to see the game where you've been able to see the game for the better part of our entire life. Local TV will have the game as well.
Yeah. And when we get to the regular season, again, that's, like if I can't believe we don't.
And if you're that upset about not being able to see it live, I'm sure NFL Network will replay that game. They replay all of the preseason games. Just look in your schedule and see when it's being played. I don't understand that.
It was, 2 years ago? This always happens in the preseason because it's that time of year. The Bills were getting ready to play a Thursday night game, I want to say, in Carolina. And a couple things I remember about that. One, it was the day that, oh, my gosh, Matt Araiza is being –
yeah.
Okay, so the Bills didn't know what to do. It was in that window, and – all right, they didn't have a punter that game. Okay, it's preseason. Who cares? The other thing I remember, there was a lightning delay.
Yep.
So we kind of had to wait that out. Well, why am I bringing that up? Because apparently the forecast doesn't look great tomorrow in Pittsburgh. So maybe you're heading down to Pittsburgh for the game. Maybe you're just that's my Saturday evening. I want to watch some Buffalo Bills football. Just settle in. Because here's what the NFL doesn't do, Danger. They don't postpone games like baseball or let's do this again tomorrow. No, they will figure out a way to at least get the minimal in and make sure they don't have to refund any money. Now, you brought up the point to me earlier. It was off air, actually. Wait a second. Didn't they do that with the Hall of Fame game? Didn't they call it off? Yeah, that was like in the third quarter.
Yeah, it was third quarter.
But by that point, though, they don't have to refund anybody at the Hall of Fame game.
I also think everybody involved is like, yeah, we can just pack up and get out of here. There's a little bit more at stake in a preseason game because you actually want to get film on some of these guys, or these guys want to get film of themselves. They want to be able to fight for a job if they get let go from their current team. So, I guess it varies from coach to coach as far as how they view the importance of a full 60-minute game. But I also know that the NFL and most large corporations are more afraid of a lawsuit than anything else. So, God forbid a fan is at an NFL stadium that is playing a game when there's a thunderstorm.
No, they won't. No.
They would clear the field. They would get everybody out of there, and they would make it a safe environment for the spectators. It's just a matter of would the players come back on the field.
Yeah, do they go by the rules in New York State? We're familiar with working with Section 5. You see lightning, half-hour delay. That's the minimum. So bringing up this all for in advance tomorrow night, just kind of forecasting, see what I did there.
Yeah. Well, the weather is going to be a factor. It will determine just how much we'll see of Josh Allen and the Bills' healthy starters.
My Danger, I don't think they should see anything of number 17. I like the number 17.
Count Etzko is here.
I think they should put in, what is Trubisky's number?
Oh, is he 12, 10, 7?
He's number 11! I am Count Hetzko, and I'm going to tell you that lightning will be a factor tomorrow. In fact, we will get some rain here in Rochester. Make sure you tune in tonight to 13 VAM for my complete forecast. I am
13 VAM.
13 VAM.
VAM?
Mike Danger, do you not know how we speak the language?
What are you talking about? What's 13 VAM? Spell it for me. Can you spell it for me?
Do you remember figure skater Katarina Witt? She wasn't Katarina Witt. She was Katarina Witt.
Ah.
That is how we say, what do you call W?
W-H-A-M? Wham?
Wham.
Oh.
Bam.
Okay.
Bam.
Wham.
Bam.
Right. Wham.
Bam.
Count Hetzko. Weather's a factor. Rain in the forecast. So this is a little bit of a change from last year. If Josh Allen gets a quarter or more in multiple preseason games, just add it to add another log to the fire of decisions made by the Bills this offseason and preseason that I don't like. I don't like this move. I don't like this decision. I don't like a lot of the moves that they made. I like one move that they made. John Perry. John Perry makes sense. That move makes sense, and you saw in week 1 of the preseason, that was the only thing that went well for the Bills in the first week of the preseason. Oh, Sean McDermott went 2 for 2 on his challenges. John Perry is a difference maker. That's the decision that they've made this offseason that's already paid off for them. I don't want to see Josh Allen.
I like the decision to move on from Chase Claypool. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, that yes, we found out about that, the injury settlement, and that is not – I'm not taking a victory lap on somebody who got injured, but I'm not surprised. And to see Josh Allen again for at least a quarter, depending on the weather, yeah, again, this is different than how they dealt with them last year.
All right, so if they go out there, they're okay – do we need to do this again against Carolina on the 26th?
You need them to be okay. At least okay.
Okay, so they're
because
not
they were really bad last year, week 2 of the preseason against the Steelers. You
right.
remember?
Yeah, right. Here we are again, which I didn't know this is the way the preseason worked. I thought they wanted to mix it up. Probably people in Pittsburgh are like, oh, great, it's the Bills again. Like, you want some variety. Sorry, you don't get any variety. You get the Bills again. This is like, remember every year we play the Lions?
Detroit, yeah.
Thank good. Now that Detroit's good, that would be actually kind of welcome, but we don't get,
Yeah, it was always Detroit in the last week of the preseason. It was the most meaningless game of all of them.
It was gross.
Yeah.
It was absolutely gross. Well, I just hope that Danger, I shouldn't complain Monday. By the way, I'm doing the show solo Monday, right?
Yeah, I'll be I'm taking my teenage daughter, Alexa, for her late birthday gift on her birthday back in June. You know, we surprised her and said, we got you tickets to see one of your favorite artists. Childish Gambino is coming to Toronto. He's playing at the Scotiabank Arena on Sunday night. So we're going to that show on Sunday. And I'm like, hell, if we're in Toronto, let's see if the Jays are in town. Sure enough, Monday night, the Jays are hosting the Cincinnati Reds.
Now, this is kind of surprising because, well, not surprising because I thought about this, but when you told me, like, I went up last year, and I got good seats. It was like second level. It was Ohtani. It was the Angels.
Yeah.
I paid, and it was a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It was like $175 a ticket, Canadian. So you get that break. And I'm like, yeah, that seemed about right. But then you told me what you got these tickets for you. I'm like, wait a second, that's a deal.
Yeah. I'm looking it up to try and remember what I paid for them.
I know what you told me.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm being accurate with you here, and I don't have the receipt. I got seats in section 132, so I'm on the third baseline. And it's me and my daughter. We got our seats together, obviously. And I want to say that I paid like $50 a seat for them, something like that.
Yeah, that's great. And they're like, wait a second, how could Danger get tickets for Ellie De La Cruz, $50? Well, one thing, I went on a Saturday. You're going on a Monday night.
Yes.
That's a little bit of a factor. Number two, the Ohtani factor. I mean, he pulls in people regardless. And then the Jays are not good this year. I think maybe that's also part of this.
Let me see here. I'm being a little now. I don't know the conversion from Canadian to American, so whatever 30%. I saw is 30%.
Yeah.
So more expensive Canadian means it's cheaper American, right?
Correct.
Right. So 2 tickets in my section, second row of the section, 145 Canadian.
Okay, so yeah, like you're $150 a ticket. Yeah, that's accurate.
No, that's for both tickets.
Yeah, right. But if you're translating 145,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the fees, though, Gino. The fees that they get you with. Oh my God.
I'm cheap.
I
don't like the credit card fees. I like cash. When I go to Canada, I go right to I trade in my U.S. dollars and cash.
Yeah, no, it'll be a fun weekend. I'm looking forward to it. We have a birthday party tomorrow night downtown, at a restaurant downtown as well for a friend as well. So, like I said, hey, in the world that we live in now, we live in fantastic times. Like, normally I'd be like, I got to watch the Bills. It's week 2 of the preseason. I got to know what we're talking about next week in the sports bar. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to tape that, and I'm going to watch it when I can watch it and be ready to go the next time I'm on the air, which will be Wednesday.
Yeah, so that's the next time you and I do a show together. So I'll be I shouldn't say flying solo. Max will be here.
Oh, nice.
On the board on Monday.
That's our guy. Max doing all of our video work behind the scenes here and helping us out with One Bills Live as well.
And then Dan DeLorean just returns from the woods of the Adirondacks on Tuesday, where, like, at what point did he find out that J.J. McCarthy is out for the season? Poor guy.
I'm not as down on Sam Darnold as I think everybody else is. I'm not going to say he's going to be Alex Smith version 2.0 and a late bloomer in the NFL, but I like his situation here better than any situation he's been in. For what that's worth. But if
they didn't see anything in San Francisco, and granted, Purdy was the guy.
They like Purdy. Purdy's their guy. Mr. Irrelevant. Oh, they love him.
Sam Darnold, number 3 overall pick, beaten out by Mr. Irrelevant. I'm not optimistic on Sam Darnold. I'm sorry. This is one of those topics where you and I see differently.
Yeah, that's
Belichick
fine.
Coaching next year, Sam Darnold. Okay, and I just want to clarify.
What's our bet?
You're not saying Sam Darnold's going to lead this team to the postseason. He's not going to be terrible.
I'm saying at minimum this is his best situation, which isn't really a take. I'm saying he's going to be better than I think a lot of people expect him to be because of where he is, because he has some pieces around him. He has a good offensive line. He has a good offensive-minded head coach who knows how to scheme receivers open. He has one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the league, and a backfield that still has some fresh legs. I think he's going to be better than what we saw at any time during his time in Carolina or the Jets. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not saying it's a Sam Darnold redemption season, but it did, like Alex Smith took 7 years to get his opportunity, to get in the right situation, the right system, with the right coach, and it took off for him in San Francisco.
There was one thing that changed last night. Now, full disclosure, I didn't watch this game.
I watched a little bit of it.
Okay. Apparently, Drake May was okay.
He wasn't bad.
Yeah. But you read Patriot Twitter and Patriot fans and everything else, everyone is excited. And today, Coach Mr. Mayo, Gerard Mayo, says
no, we should just call him, just to be disrespectful, he should be Jared Mayo.
Jared Mayo.
Yeah, we're purposely mispronouncing your first name, pal.
Jared Mayo. Jared Mayo says there still is a quarterback competition.
Of course.
No, by saying there still is, now he's saying that there's not. Like, honestly, like you would absolutely downplay whatever positives you saw out of May. Like, I think danger coming out of this, if May does this one more time, and I don't even know who the Patriots, or I don't even care who the Patriots, I think they're going to go to him early now.
Tom Brady made an interesting point about teams forcing young quarterbacks in the NFL on the field too quickly. And his point was it dumbs down the game because you're not able to use your full playbook. You're not able to use everything in your arsenal. You're really dumbing it down so that the rookie can be competent out there or look competent out there. And I think that's what he's talking specifically about, a guy like May. Like, yeah, you can put him out there week one. What's that offense going to look like? It's not going to look great. It's going to be pretty basic, pretty easy to figure out.
Listen, this is really a test. I did a Brandon Bean. Listen. It's a test for Mr. Jared Mayo.
Yeah.
The correct answer is you're starting Jacoby Brissett. And you let the kid have some confidence. You let him feel good about what he did in the preseason.
Do you have Jacoby Brissett's stat line from last night handy by chance?
I can pull it up.
Because I thought I saw it cross the screen. I was eating wings with my buddy Tony, and we were drinking beers, and I was kind of half paying attention to the game, but more paying attention to what we were talking about. And I want to say that Brissett's stat line for that game was horrific.
3 of 7, 17 yards, a quarterback rating of 10.7. Okay.
Not great, Bob.
And a pick. Now, if you're thinking,
not great, Bob.
Drake May must have looked great. He was 6 of 11 for 47 yards, average completion of 4 yards, sack once, a rating of 65.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what Brady's talking about, right? Like, okay. Yeah, maybe you're completing 50% and we're keeping it really basic, but that's not great. It's not anything to write. And I don't expect great in the preseason. But
there's also something to be said. What the heck is around him there?
That's right.
Like, would it really behoove to throw him in there right away? And I kind of look at how the Jets handled Sam Darnold. Like, they put Sam Darnold in, and at the beginning we're like, oh, this is great. They've got McCown to help him out and everything. And then you realize, no, there really isn't anything. So I'm not all up on the Patriot offensive line, but I could tell you there's not really much in terms of the skilled positions in New England. Ramondre Stevenson last night, 6 carries, 18 yards.
Boy, this was a huge weight off of your chest if you were a Bengals fan, because I know that you were very concerned about this player getting paid this offseason.
Oh, I thought you were mentioning when you said Bengals, the hot uniform talk, that they're going to be in all orange coming up week 1.
No,
that's not. Okay.
No, I know a lot of Bengals fans have been kind of like holding their breath in anticipation for the team taking care and paying one of their best players this offseason. No, I'm not talking about Jamar Chase. I'm talking about your kicker, of course, Evan McPherson. Evan McPherson getting a 3-year extension worth $16.5 million, making $10 million in new money the first year of this deal, the most ever for a kicker on a 3-year extension. Yet Jamar Chase waits.
Think of what Brandon Beane said to us. It was like the first interview we did about talking about building the team. When he said, and I always made note of this, people will pay attention to who we pay and when we pay them. In other words, there is a lineup, like you're next in line. And throughout the Brandon Beane era here, he pretty much nobody could said, wait a second, why didn't you give that guy an extension? Maybe Dawson Knox got his a little earlier, but no one really complained. You're in that Bengal locker room. You're taking care of your kicker?
Yeah.
Of your kicker.
Yeah. We say it often. Dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things.
Your kicker. It's almost like they're saying, you know what? We're not cheap. Just those other guys aren't accepting our offer. The kicker, he's so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're Jamar Chase, or if you're an advocate for Jamar Chase in that locker room, and I have a feeling on the offensive side of the ball, he probably has some people in his corner. The kicker gets his.
Yeah, you could say, oh, come on, it's 3 years, 16.5. Like, Chase will make that in 1 year. Okay, but they haven't taken care of it
It's
yet.
the action. It doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. It's the action. It's the idea that you clearly know he's not at practice. You clearly know Chase wants to get his, and you're pushing back on one of the best players in the league, simultaneously taking care of a kicker. It just makes no sense. Help me make it make sense, Bengal fan. And McPherson's a nice kicker. Good for him getting that money. But the optics of that, to me, just look way off.
No, it's when you have these other issues here. Right, exactly. I just look at the Bengals as this team that, even though they have their quarterback, they look like they're on borrowed time. Might work this year as like a last dance sort of thing, but when Higgins goes, and if you're not going to pay Chase, Chase will ultimately go. And then Luanarumo, at some point, he'll leave. I don't see this being long-term in Cincinnati.
Now, remind me, Gino, did you say on these very airwaves that if the NFL draft came to Buffalo, you would not attend? Because if I'm not mistaken, the Bills, they have officially requested to host the draft in either 28 or 29.
Let me be clear about the story here. Right? Let me back up. So it's opening night. It's in Detroit. And I think we all have kind of a similarity, right, with a Rust Belt city. I'm going to include Rochester in this, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, the heart of any city there, it's not what it was, right? But when we have the Jazz Fest here and Parcel 5 filled up, hey, we feel pretty good about that. Well, they did this in Detroit. Downtown Detroit. I've been to downtown Detroit, okay? There's some nice areas there, Greektown, whatever. But it's not a place where you congregate. But here you have not thousands, hundreds of thousands of people all there for the NFL draft to watch everybody kind of cross the stage. And sometimes you put things out on X and they go viral, and it's happened to me just a little bit, but it wasn't just the X thing. I put out there the video, and everybody's retweeting the drone footage. I'm like, hey, what is in this for you? It's not a concert. It's not a game. You're standing around. It was an honest question. Like, what's in it for
Fun.
you? Well, some people were like, yeah, what's in it for me? And then other people were like, oh, the fun police just showed up.
Fun.
And then little did I know, because I'm out at the tap room at Bill Gray's with Duffy watching the draft that night. And little did I know that on these very airwaves, our buddy, Ryan Horvat, or Horvat, as I used to call him, Trista Crick, they see this tweet and it becomes a talking point.
Uh-huh.
And I think Trista's saying, yeah, Gene's right. And Horvat's like, no, he's Mr. Krabby Ass.
All right, Mr. Krabby Ass, if the draft is in Buffalo, 28 or 29, are you making a point to go to Buffalo for the draft? It'll be 60 minutes down the thruway.
If it is part of my job, if you and I are there broadcasting, but if I'm standing in a sea of thousands and thousands of people, I think this would be fantastic for her. It's going to bring in visitors. It'll pump in money. Good for the Bills that are saying, hey, we'd like to host this.
We've got our brand new stadium that we're going to show off, right? That's what this is about.
Yeah, and Buffalo gets knocked for the weather. Well, you did this in Detroit. It's not great there. Cleveland, correct me if I'm wrong, the weather was crappy there, and you sort of could tell on television.
Yeah.
Like what?
It would be so Buffalo if they held the draft late April and it's like 40 degrees with wet flakes and just we've seen those days in April.
The part I want to know is, though, like, where do they put it? Because the obvious answer would be, oh, put them at the stadium.
The new stadium.
Do they do that, or do they want to spotlight Buffalo? Does the city actually get involved? Are they part of this bid? Because if you're wanting to say, hey, let's put this right in front of City Hall in that square, you know what I'm talking about. That would look great on television if you put everybody in there and it's close to the one rail and it's right down.
Zero chance that's happening.
I would say zero because of the fear of it still is April.
It's zero chance of that happening. This will be exactly what – this is the playbook that Dallas had when they hosted the draft. It will be at the new stadium. They'll dress it up. They'll make it. Here's the pathway into the new stadium, the red carpet into the new stadium, and they'll do exactly with New Highmark what they did with AT&T Stadium when they hosted the draft in Dallas. It'll look like that. It'll sound like that. There'll be thousands and thousands of people in the stadium, and of course around the stadium, congregating around.
Yeah, and they'll make real money off that because you could put people on the field or whatever. It'd be like whatever the concert. I haven't seen that. Like we know what the stadium, but like for a concert, what would it seat? I'd have to imagine like something like 80,000 or something. Well, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, so like do the math, and surely Early County would love all that parking revenue too.
Yeah. We got to get to a round of shots. I know there's another concert that we're going to get to here in a round of shots. And there's also talk of a John Madden Is it biopic or biopic?
I don't know.
Which one do you fall? Which direction?
I go biopic.
You go biopic?
Yeah.
I've heard biopic a few times.
The story is this. Like, okay, they're going to have – John Madden has a really interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
No longer with us, but between why he rode the bus all those years, like you have to go back to that story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, there's some things to his life story that maybe could make it an interesting movie. I just don't get for who they cast here, and you know this actor here too. And there's something on Netflix you could actually watch tonight if you're into true crime.
Oh right, I heard about this. Yep.
Yeah, like opening up the case of Steve McNair, like. Oh my gosh, we all took this at face value. What happened? Maybe that there really was a real sinister crime.
This is one of those rare instances where if your wife is into true crime, you could actually be into true crime as well. I know a lot of dudes might be into true crime. Not for me, but if your wife is into true crime, I know the executive producer is into true crime.
All right, so let me put this because we're the Rochester show, right? There is a true crime podcast called Wine and Crime. One of the ladies on Wine and Crime lived in Rochester, so they're doing Rochester crimes this week. That's the topic.
Arthur Shawcross will
be. Ding.
Yeah.
And the other one being whatever the heist was that Gary Craig wrote about.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Love a good heist.
But that you're absolutely right. This is something that you remember the story of what happened here, and you can involve your wife, tell about Steve McNair. We're going to explain, like, what we were told and what actually may have happened.
That's on the way with a round of shots. Last call before 6 o'clock at 866-4FAN. You can have the final say in the sports bar. 866-4326.
update.
Head coach Sean McDermott says that quarterback Josh Allen and all the Bills starters are going to see some action coming up tomorrow night as the Bills play preseason game number 2 in Pittsburgh. Thunderstorms are in the forecast. Deion Dawkins is ready for whatever.
Everybody just has to be ready because in this league, obviously, it's 100% injury rate. Sometimes it's 200, sometimes it's 300, and guys just have to be ready to go.
Chris Brown, Eric Wood, Sal Capaccio will have your call tomorrow night here on The Fan. Our coverage will begin at 5 p.m. Rochester Red Wings home tonight against Syracuse. The Wings looking to make it 5 wins in a row. One game from the majors, the Cubs, after letting the Jays score 3 in the 9th, Cubs win the 10th, 6-5, the final. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Bills, Sabres, Amerks. Your home for live sports is 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the sports bar, it's Danger and Battaglia. Time for a round of shots.
Yeah, a little bit of good news for the Yankees, who are not losing their new third baseman for the season. It's some rest and rehab for Jazz Chisholm. Hope is the Yankees will get him back in September. That was a UCL injury, and that happened in a collision at home there. Garrett Cole goes for the Yankees tonight in Detroit. For the Yankees tomorrow, it's a 1:10 p.m. start. New York, Detroit, then the Sunday night game on ESPN.
All right, looking forward to that. The Yankees, kind of evading that White Sox series. They're getting through that White Sox series, winning this series, but man, it wasn't looking pretty there for a few moments for Yankee fans.
Yeah, entering tonight, both the Yankees and the O's, 72-50, dead even in the AL East. Other matchups this weekend include the Pirates at home tonight against the Mariners, and yeah, it's fun if you've got Apple TV. You can check out Paul Skeens. He's your starting pitcher tonight, 6:40 for the coverage. Fox tomorrow night has Cleveland, Milwaukee, Dodgers in St. Louis, the Mets hosting the Marlins, Boston continuing their series in Baltimore.
Who are the Mets going to trot out throw out the first pitch this weekend? If Hawk Tua Girl was yesterday,
I can't believe they did that.
Who's another viral star that we can throw out there?
As Chris in Kentucky and others have pointed out, literally the Mets theme song says, "Bring your family,
bring the kiddies, bring your
wife." Yeah, guaranteed to have the time of your life.
Well, if Hawk Tua Girl's there, it's a party. Yeah, bring everybody. Bring the kiddies. Bring the wife.
Mark Astastasio, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. He is the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers. Why am I bringing him up? Well, he's being sued. Lawsuit alleging he's using an excavator to steal sand from Malibu Beach, bringing the sand to his own property.
Oh.
All beaches in California are public. You can walk on them. That's not your sand. The beach is in front of the Brewers owner's residence. The person suing him is his neighbor.
That's now, I obviously don't live on the waterfront or have beachfront property, Gino. I don't think you do either. But I have to imagine that that's the biggest D move you could pull of D moves if you do have beachfront property, stealing sand from your next door neighbor.
It's the property in front of him. Okay.
Oh,
understand what I'm saying? It's like, okay, you know
so
what?
It's not the next door neighbor.
No.
But the property across the street noticed this nefarious theft of sand.
Yeah, you can't touch the sand. It's there for a reason. Shoreline protection amongst other reasons.
Right.
Like you can't just pull up the sand here.
He wants a bigger beach. He's trying to create a bigger beach in his backyard.
That's it. That's it. Let me pull this back here a little bit more. I don't know, you can actually go buy the sand somewhere else. Like if you bring out this big machinery, like no one's gonna not notice that.
I am guilty of theft. I feel like the statute of limitations is up, and I can say this because I've been in my house now for
you stole sand
22 years.
You stole sand from California?
No, topsoil.
Where?
Well, our house was built, and then the neighborhood wasn't really fully developed, and there were just giant piles of topsoil, just kind of like in my backyard. Not in my backyard, literally, but where they were building new homes. And
so it's late after night, and you're bringing the wheelbarrow over.
It wasn't like screened topsoil. They hadn't screened it yet, but it was just piles of dirt that they were going to screen for topsoil. And Yeah, I may have taken a wheelbarrow or two. Just, for a little landscaping things around the house.
I don't think the Cardis family listens to the sports.
Well,
maybe they do.
Jimmy plays hockey, and maybe
Yeah.
he does.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, Jimmy, come get me. I'm sorry, bud. I won't say anything about the quality of construction of the house that we've called home for the last 22 years. You guys do a great job. We love you.
We've all been to concerts or shows where they give it the start time, but, that's not really the start time, right? 8 o'clock doesn't mean 8 o'clock. Well, last night in Los Angeles, this may have set the record. It was the opening of the Intuit Dome. It's not really the dome. It's an arena, but because of the fixtures and the features, they call it a dome. It's the new home of the LA Clippers.
Yeah,
right?
It looks impressive.
It does. Bruno Mars opening it, the performer. 8 o'clock Pacific time. That was listed at the start. The show didn't start until 10 o'clock. 2-hour wait. The reason? People had trouble getting in. Apparently, there's new facial recognition software, and it was malfunctioning.
Interesting. I heard something similar in Vegas where Vegas police, and they're trying to do this at Allegiant Stadium with the facial recognition technology, but Vegas police are against it. They say they can't use it. They say they shouldn't use it.
I think it's like what the Knicks do, shouldn't say the Knicks, MSG does. It's for wrong reasons. This was the story where the
keep
owner,
Charles Oakley out?
Kind of. There was a law firm that was suing MSG and Dolan, the owner.
I'm going to sue James Dolan. I'm going to sue Steve Ballmer. I'm going to sue Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga. I waited for 4 hours in the new dome, and the escalators were broken, and I fell down the stairs, and my shoes fell off. I broke my glasses, and now I can't see. Punitive damages. I'm suing everybody.
So what did Dolan do with the facial recognition? Anybody from that law firm was banned from MSG.
That's my lawyer. He can't go to MSG anymore. He can't go to Barclays. He can't go anywhere because of the facial recognition.
Did somebody steal?
They didn't recognize me because I didn't have my glasses on, and because my glasses broke when I fell down the stairs. Damn it!
I thought maybe you were upset too because somebody stole sand from you, and that you tripped over that big hole where the sand used to be.
I'm suing Mark Anastasio, the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm suing Tommy Lasorda. I'm suing everybody.
Tommy Lasorda's
dead.
He's no longer here.
I'm suing him. The estate. Punitive damages.
Oh.
Fernando Tatis, I'm suing him.
Fernando Tatis? What does he have to do? Remember Steve McNair? Tough quarterback, leading the Titans to their only Super Bowl. He was actually the co-MVP in 2003.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah. Shortly after his playing days were done, he was killed. 2009, police ruled it a murder-suicide.
Yep.
There is a new Netflix documentary that is raising the question, was it really a murder-suicide? Nashville police back in 2009, almost instantly, ruled that 20-year-old Shazil Kasemi murdered McNair and then turned the gun on herself. Case closed. Apparently, she had a DWI, and that McNair was, he was still married at the time. Well, questions that are being
Hold on a
raised-
second. Wait, you mean to tell me that NFL players aren't always faithful in their relationships? I'm really struggling with this accusation. He was still married when he was with this girl? No, come on.
It's a fact.
That happens? Shocking.
Yeah, that's a tough way to go there with your mistress and you. Anyways, questions being raised around this right now, and they're centering this around a man named Adrian Gilliam. Gilliam is the man who sold Kasemi the gun. Gilliam actually lied to investigators about his relationship with Kasemi. He said he didn't know her, except, he come to find out today, there were 200 phone calls between the two. The documentary also raises the question, could it have been a guy named Robert Gaddy? He was the man who found the crime scene. Gaddy and McNair were actually in a dispute over money. It was only $1,300.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me professional athletes also struggle paying off their debts? This is all too much for me to handle right now.
Well, here's more, and this is a sports bar favorite I'm going to hit you with. Lending some credence that it wasn't a murder-suicide is a quote from our favorite, head coach Jeff Fisher, who is in this doc, quote, I can make a case that this doesn't add up. but just let it go. Let it go. Untold the murder of Aaron McNair, again on Netflix.
We're on a record-setting pace with our punt team.
If Jeff Fisher is in it, I will be asleep by the time he starts giving out quotes. I mean, just listen to the dulcet tones.
I can make a case that it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
We're on a record-setting pace with our punt team.
This happened 15 years ago. We need to let
I've been impressed with Brandon, and what he's done out of the backfield. And you got to deal with him in addition to Danny, and you got playmakers all around. So we have to play sound defense.
Okay, I remember this quote. This is he's the head coach of the Rams. Brandon being Brandon Bolden,
Patriots,
who was a special teamer, had 1 carry.
Yeah,
and we got Danny Woodhead, who's on the Chargers now.
Danny Woodhead was with the Chargers. He wasn't even with the Patriots. Yeah,
we're on a record-setting pace with our punt team.
Yeah, good. He makes a cameo in the doc. Great. Just what I needed. That's the melatonin I needed to put me out.
Sandy into true crime, because I'm thinking maybe this is the thing you guys can watch.
No. Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think she would really want to watch the story of a dishonest football player who cheated on his wife. Yeah, she's probably not into that story.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't help me either. It would feed into too many things that she already believes to be true about NFL players.
Good point. A new film is going to be on the big screen, a biopic about John Madden. Now, John Madden, interesting life. Can we all kind of agree?
For sure.
I'm willing to give this a chance here. But wait a second. Who did they cast? Reportedly, Will Ferrell was interested in the role of Madden, but it's not going to be him. Cast as John Madden is Nicolas Cage.
Nick Cage.
Nick
Coppola. Yeah.
Just so I have to make sure that there's, nothing, no.
Who would you cast?
Frank Caliendo.
No.
Frank Caliendo. He'd have it down perfectly.
Has he been in any movie ever?
No, but
no,
he would make me laugh, right?
I mean, yeah, maybe. I have the guy for the job. If they wanted to take a swing, and I mean, look, Nick Cage is an unbelievable actor. He's been in so many movies, so many great films, and we're probably selling his ability short. It feels like it's a miscast, but I have the guy that I would love to see play Madden is actually Jonah Hill. I think Jonah Hill would have been fantastic, but Jonah Hill's lost a lot of weight. He would probably have to gain weight again for this. I don't know if he's willing to do that now because he's really turned the page and has a very healthy lifestyle now because being overweight almost killed him. That and the drugs, but I think he's over all of that. And but I think of Jonah Hill. I'm like, that feels like the kind of personality, the kind of actor that could pull off Madden through the years.
Do they kind of take a wider lens here? Because if you go to 1970s Oakland Raider football, and that could be a lot of fun.
I would love it.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Now, is that coming to the big screen? That's big screen, not Netflix.
That's big screen, yeah.
Good. Yeah, worthy of a film, and I'm intrigued by that. And I think a lot of it is going to center around the video game franchise, too, and how Madden became synonymous with the most popular video game of all time, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, the coincides with the game dropping. I want to say it's today or tomorrow that it drops. It's today, I want to say.
Oh, funny how when the college football came out, it's like, oh, yeah, that pro game again. Yeah.
The college game is great. I'm spending a little too much time.
How many times has Florida State won the championship?
They're going for a three-peat. Tonight.
Do you have Mike Danger as quarterback?
No, I named my coach O.G. Burf.
O.G. Burf.
It's a reference to the bear. I call him O.G. Burf. We got to cut out of here, man. Tomorrow, Bills football, preseason week number 2. Coverage starts at 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock kickoff. And Gino's back on Monday to recap all of it. I'll be back with Gino on Wednesday here in the Sports Bar. If you missed our conversation with Michael F. Florio from NFL Network, some fantasy football talk, or Brooke Pryor covering the Steelers for ESPN's NFL Nation, you can find them wherever you get your podcasts. Just search out the Sports Bar. We appreciate you listening in the free-to-download Odyssey app. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester. Have a great weekend.
You're listening to the Sports